Hi, this is Michael Shevack, and welcome to GODSEARCH. This is podcast number 9. 9, very special number. It's an amplification of 3, which we've already spoken about. 3 is the number for building, and then you add 3 and 3 and 3, and you amplify 3. You exponentiate 3. You raise it to powers, and you can do amazing things with the number 3. Buckminster Fuller created the geodesic dome out of equilateral triangles. You could build a structure out of just concept. Father, Son, Holy Spirit is a holy triunity. You have also Chachma, Bina, Keter. You have Tiferet, Chod, Netzach. In Jewish mysticism, the amplification of 3 upon 3 is about how we build this world. How we build this world. And we're going to talk about the fact that there is 6 today, a very important 6, which we touched upon last time, which are value priorities. But first, let's, in general, reframe what we're going to do. There were 3, there we go again, 3 components to the experience called God. Remember, we're not trying here to prove anything. We're trying to teach you how to align yourself, how to behave, how to have a relationship that is living with the life experience that is good, that we commonly abbreviate by the word God. And there are 3 components. One was truth, which we've talked about a little bit. We'll go back to that. The other is unity, which we talked about a little bit, and we're going to go back to that a lot. And the third was causality, cause and effect. You put the 3 things together, you basically have 3 components that are part of what is commonly called the Creator God. Causality is very, very special. We can all witness that there are certain things that precede other things, that some things come first and other things come subsequently. There are priorities in terms of time. What must come first? What must come second? There are also priorities in terms of importance. Air gets priority, as we discussed last time. The single most important thing once you have life. But not all priorities are number 1 in importance and also a priority in time. In causality, we're looking at what has importance in time predominantly. And we're also looking from the standpoint of a God search and what has importance for human beings and human civilizations here on Earth. Now, we human beings have the ability to personalize and egoize the causal nature of all existence. Planets that are born, universes that collapse into black holes and recreate new white holes. We have the ability to egoize, to make personal, to individualize the creative processes of the universe or the creative processes of God. I distinguish them only because there's a real issue in scale, which we'll talk about in the future. But we have that ability. And as we discussed, we have a supernatural ability that allows us to create what mere earthly nature can't do. We can create Teflon and computers. And we have to find a way to harmonize these things in order to create a human society, which is both natural and supernatural, where it's good for all creatures on the planet as well as us, but yet we can still stay individuals and still have a human society. This is not easy. But this is the basic concept behind the Garden of Eden story. It's not that we're sinners in the sense that we're born rotten. It's that the very gift of materiality creates the ability of us to have an ego, to individualize creation. We can be demut, in the image and likeness, b'tselem v'demut, in the image, meaning reflective of the divine nature of creativity, and demut, we can have an ego, we can be cut off and separated. This is a gift. This is a gift. And because we have this gift, we have to learn how to use the gift. Otherwise, the gift can be a very dangerous thing. The expression, as you sow, so you reap, which is very common to Christian thinking, it's an abbreviation of Jewish thought as well, which is very agrarian, is that when you have a seed, you plant it and something comes from it. The cause, priority and time, creates the effect, which is the secondary cause. The secondary cause creates a new cause. What we think is an effect is a cause. What we think is a cause is an effect. And it keeps going and keeps going. And we sow and reap and sow and sow and reap and reap and sow. But the important thing for the human being is because we have this wonderful thing called an ego, individuality, we can direct our thinking and our actions to produce specific results. A lot of you people know that in New Age thinking, in terms of abundance thinking and what's called the secret, which is that your thoughts are active, that your thinking processes are actually creative. And there are a lot of wonderful, wonderful books about this. Unity Church, Religious Science, they are all experts in this. But there are also other things that are incredibly important that we need to focus on. One thing is, when I'm speaking to you right now, well, right now, not only are you reacting emotionally to what I'm saying and intellectually what I'm saying, but I'm reacting to myself. My physiology is changing. If I point the finger at you, it comes back to me, as people point out. That's very deep. Because as I'm speaking to you, if I'm getting angry, I'm creating angry chemicals. If I'm feeling loving, I'm creating loving chemicals. As you sow, so you reap is not a moral law alone. Religions teach it as a moral law. Therefore, do this. You'll hurt other people if you do this. Do to them what you would have them do to you, which makes no sense if you're a sadist, and it doesn't make any sense if you're a masochist. The moral laws completely break up. Why shouldn't I allow you to suffer if I enjoy suffering? I would like you to do to me what I do to myself. Okay? But as you sow, so you reap is actually a law of life. As I'm communicating to you, I'm receiving back the tone, the manner, the actual chemistry of that. Now, there was a really amazing lady, Candace Pert, who was up for a Nobel Prize. She discovered the morphine receptor, and she proved conclusively that emotions are substantial. Remember, we talked about substantial truth? That emotions are substantial. It's chemistry. There are chemical compounds that will produce the phenomenon we know as emotions, and there are emotions that produce chemistry, and they are part of the living processes of life. So here we move into a whole new adventure. We're not really just talking about religion. We're talking about physiology, which is spirituality, and spirituality, which is chemistry, and psychology, which is physiology, and physiology, which is emotional. And all of this generates politics, religion, government, art, music. All of this is one tissue of truth and one tissue of unity, but the pressure on us comes from using our ability to cause and effect correctly. Cause and effect correctly. Now, in the last podcast, we talked about excess as the result of mind cracks that get in the way of our ability to think clearly and cause us to foul our sowing and reaping and create things that we don't want. In order to prevent that, we began the process of talking about what I call value priorities, beginning after there's actually life, the most important thing, which is health. Now, there are basically six value priorities. Six value priorities. The first one is health, which we're going to continue up today. There is peace. There is freedom. There is wisdom. There is the fulfillment of your full potential. And there is also prosperity. 6, 3, and 3. Let me do that again. There's health, peace, freedom, wisdom, the expression of your full potential, and prosperity. These are value priorities. In this world, everything becomes a mess when these value priorities are not there, or these value priorities, as it is mostly commonplace, are in the wrong priority, both in time and in importance. It's extremely important, okay, that we understand value priorities and which come first and which come second. So we're going to continue right now with value priority number 1. These are critical to learn so that when you use your power to choose, your power of what is called free will, we'll discuss that more down the road, that you are aligning your actions and your thinking processes, your feelings, your thoughts, your words, and your actions with how this world is created, how it works for good. How does this world work for good? Meaning, how does it work to produce good? What are the mechanics? What is it that we as human beings need to do? What guides our sowing? What guides our reaping, which is itself a sowing for new reaping? These value priorities are critical. They will save us enormous pain. Now, they came out of a personal experience for me because I did not know how to live. I must tell you, I didn't know. I had one idea from one person, another idea from another person, another idea from this religion. I had an idea from this religion. I had an idea from secular religion. I had a whole bunch of popular stuff that was popular in my age group and my generation, none of which held together, all of which contradicted with each other. And I was in enormous pain as a person trying to figure out, how do I live? And it took decades of my life, decades. And then one day it kind of distilled into me this. And I'm going to share this with you so that you don't have to suffer the same way I suffered. So first, value priority, meaning a value which is gets priority, meaning focus on it first, and it is important, okay? Both in time and succession of time and importance, okay? So let's go back to health. Health is the single most important value priority. It is disrespected. Anyone go to work when they have a cold? Your body is telling you not to go to work. Okay, you're all congested. Your head is congested. Your nose is congested. Your throat is raspy. You are not feeling well. And yet, we consider it perfectly normal to wake up and go to work. Why? So we don't let the company down. So we make money to support our family. We push our bodies. Well, we push our bodies, our immune system goes down, which is how we get the cold, but we don't honor the cold. And then we do the most unbelievable, egregious, antisocial behavior that is considered normal. We actually go to work or go to school with cold. Oh, it's just a cold. And we make the assumption that we have a God-given right to walk in and impose that upon other people. We just walk in. We don't ask their permission whether they'll let us come in, even if we have a cold. Well, no one would do that with COVID, but we do it all the time, that behavior with a cold, which is why we have to impose egregious controls when COVID comes in, because we all have sloppy habits over a cold. Let's get focused up here. You don't feel well. You have something which can be contagious. Why do you feel that it is so minor that you can just walk into a place and share it with someone without getting their permission? Our value priorities are nuts. Nuts. Well, we do it because we put money first, or we'll put our public appearance and how we appear in the office, and are we taking control? Are we looking lazy? And all of these other things, but we are not putting health first. And many a person who has garnered a tremendous amount of wealth has used that wealth to repair their health when they are older and they don't have the immortality that young people think that they have. Health is priority number one. Now, as I said last time, and it's worth going into more, health is not health care. If our country were focused on health, the amount of money we would spend on health care would go down. This whole insane debate between socialized medicine and capital medicine and capitalistic medicine, this whole thing, insurance, not insurance, government control, all of this stuff would soften if human beings took responsibility for their health. This is a spiritual issue. It's a spiritual issue. This is a God experience issue. Why? Obviously, if I am not healthy, if I am not taking advantage of the fact that my physiology self-corrects and that there are guardians that protect me from bacteria and viruses that are built into the design of my body, if I am not experiencing the good, the simple good of health, well, of course, I'm not going to be experiencing God. If you read the Bible, you'll see that's the foundation of a lot of the insights around laws and diseases and that kind of thing. If you have a disease, you separate the person from the rest of the tribe. That's in the Bible. Why? Obviously, if they have not aligned themselves properly with the transnatural so that their human supernatural works with the natural and they get a disease, meaning they fall out of so-called grace, which is a nice word, with God, meaning an alignment to how spirituality works and the experience of God works, well, then you have to separate them so the contaminant doesn't spread. The contaminant doesn't spread. You go to work with a cold, it's a moral insult to other people. Something as simple as that. You impose your disease upon them and assume that they will put up with it. And then we have medicines and pharmacy and all sorts of stuff and industries that are built on it that feed people and make money. And we think it's perfectly normal. And we don't want the industries to go down because we're basing our lives on the value of money. And before you know it, health is a great industry. Many decades ago, I don't even know if it's true, the number one contributor to the gross national product in the United States was cancer, which implies that if you want to improve the economy, let's just increase the number of people that have cancer. This is how warped life is if the value priorities are not in the correct place. Do you understand? Health is number one. And if everyone in the entire country and the world were focused on value priority number one, so many of these insane debates on government controls and money wouldn't disappear because money is a wonderful thing. We'll talk about that in value priority number 6. But the pain, the difficulty, the mind cracks, the contention between different legislative views, different human views, the income disparity in the relationship to health. Everyone's entitled to a healthy body. It should have nothing to do with income. All of these things would soften. They'd be easier to deal with. The reason they're impossible to deal with is that the value priorities in this world are off base. They stay off base. They're off base in socialist countries, so they spend enormous amount of money and destroy the tax base of people so that they sacrifice tremendous amounts of wealth to pay for their health. That's crazy. The same thing is if you think health, which can cost a lot to repair when things go bad, that's income. So only the wealthy people can stay healthy. That's ridiculous. We have to finance an automobile. Automobiles are expensive. No one's income alone can buy an automobile. Generally speaking, the same as a house. We have mechanisms for paying for that. We have to have mechanisms for paying for extreme measures in health. This is normal and natural economics. But it is all warped upside down because spiritually, we are not living according to the way life is designed. Life's our context here on God Search. If you haven't forgotten, remind yourself. Number one priority is health. Health. Number one priority. Remember it. Health. Now, remember, as I speak to you, I'm speaking to myself and I'm getting back my own emotions. It's changing my physiology. It's changing my heartbeat. If I'm angry, I'm receiving that. Obviously, health includes kind treatment to each other. Can you listen to what's going on the airways? I'm bad enough. I have a kind of a Brooklyn thug tone to my voice half the times. It's really hard to get rid of, by the way. It's Coney Island. And it ain't pleasant. And if you're a New Yorker, you feel it's love. If you're not a New Yorker, you think you're getting assaulted. It's not easy. So bear with me. Do you realize the amount of bombardment of messages that we are getting and we tolerate because, hey, good ratings makes money for advertisers and the whole economy is based on it. All of these messages that we're getting from the media, they are bombarding us with emotions that turn in chemicals and assault our body, and then we pay for it with higher health care costs. Think about it. Health is a moral issue. Health is a spiritual issue because your physiology, your emotions, your psychology, the design of this entire world are interrelated. Unity, that's number two. We're emphasizing causality here. So remember, health involves everything. You might say health is wholeness. Some people say that the word health comes from the word whole, W-H-O-L-E. If you don't pay attention to value priority number one, you can spell it H-O-L-E. You fall into it. Health includes the emotions, the feelings, the sensations, the smells, the textures. When you see a color, it affects your physiology. It affects health. Health affects design. How do we design our buildings? Are they pleasing? Do they create the correct physiological reactions to support the well-being of each individual? Does the individual choose livelihoods that enhance their health? Or are they so oppressed that they allow their lungs to be filled with coal dust or asbestos dust for the sake of taking care of their family, advancing technology at the expense of what is deep and precious and important, which is life? They support their families, make money, and then die to not enjoy the fruit of their labor. This is the tragedy of people. It's also the tragedy, by the way, of men, whose tragedy is greatly underappreciated in an age which has basically become feminist dominated for a good reason. But nonetheless, the tragedy of men is not adequately appreciated. Now, health is everything, as my grandfather used to say. May he rest in peace. Health is value priority number one. Now, I wish I could keep it so simple as saying it's everything, because everything is so beyond my ability to conceive. I mean, I don't even know what everything is. I can't do this. Either there is a way to raise the consciousness of human beings so that we can widen out and have an intuitive sense of what is good and health that is beyond the intellect, or we'll keep doing what we have been doing, which is rather crazy, which is, okay, we're going to do this diet, we're going to get rid of all the fats in the diet. All right, and then we're going to do this diet, which we're going to have high carbohydrate. And we're going to do this diet where we're going to have high protein, but we're going to have no carbohydrate. We're going to high in salad, but you can have your martini. All of this crazy stuff going on as we intellectually try to assess healthcare. How do you take care of yourself? How do you diet? All the intellectual theories and what I like to call opinionocracy not democracy, opinionocracy on what produces health. Every single year it changes. There is no answer to the dilemma unless there is an actual, authentic God search where we can widen out our experience of life and actually receive direct knowledge by which we can have our ego, intentional, free-willed sowing and reaping of health in the context of our natural environment, but also have our nice little artificial toys like our cars and our planes and all the other stuff that makes a material human life worthwhile. So I can't keep this thing so nicely controlled by saying everything because, hey, I don't know everything. Do you? Humility. We talked about that, podcast number 1, humility. But we can use our minds somewhat. It is obvious that our health care also includes the planet. Now, when I say the planet, please do not judge me as some kind of Aquarian age ecological tree hugger and disrespect me. That kind of nonsense I really despise. We have grown so intellectually aware that when we hurt our environment, we pay for it individually. We will foul the air, we get asthma. We will poison the water, we get cancer. We know that health for the individual is related to health on the planet. We know that how we use our supernatural technology will change how we experience life naturally. That is oftentimes avoided by certain political groups who want more than anything that money making and marketing be the predominant mediator and intercessor of all human life. So they're afraid that we concentrate too much on the planet. Planet thugs, climate thugs coercing us. That viewpoint is very important. We don't want to lose the supernatural ability of the human being. We don't want to lose it. But that's often declared as being anti-God. Well, it's not true. Okay, this is the fundamental story of Noah. Okay, people got carried away in their behavior, and their actions of sowing and reaping added to the creative environment in such a way that it fouled creation on the earth. And the earth rebelled with a flood. The purpose of the flood was to wipe people off, which was the insult to creation. And it succeeded. Well, you could say the same thing's going on now with global warming because the planet knows certainly well what to do. It's cooling itself down by melting its icebergs, which is not particularly great because it's raising the water levels, and it could decimate human population, which would just get rid of the insult to the planet and restabilize it. But what would happen to human beings? We're going to talk about that more when we talk about what's called relationship priorities. But health involves how we treat healthfully our environment, straight down to a little cold that you bring in the office. Health is the foundation of the experience called God when you're here in a physical body. Health. It's designed, as we know from physiology, to maintain itself. It's also designed to get sick when it loses its alignment, and that sickness is a sign that you have fallen out of the experience called God as viewed from health, from a health point of view. Think about that. A fever comes when you fall out of alignment. Its purpose is to burn up the bacteria. It's wonderful. Fever is wonderful. But when it becomes excessive, itself becomes dangerous to the body, over 102, you'd better apply some cooling packs and some aspirin. But basically, the body is designed miraculously to self-maintain health. We don't need health systems as much as we need to reinvent our focus and our value priorities on health, on health. You know, it's very interesting when COVID came back, everyone was kind of figuring out where's COVID coming from? Where's it coming from? And one theory was, of course, that it was genetically engineered, which is possible. It's a misuse of the supernatural mind. Okay, certainly. Other theory was it was caused by wet markets where they were selling bats. Well, you know, if you look in the book of Deuteronomy, you'll find bats are one of those things you shouldn't eat. Well, we now know that bats harbor more viruses than almost any other animal, more of the dangerous viruses. So you got to be careful, you know, when you go invade with your supernatural mind into ecological niches that belong to other animals and you pull them out of ecological niches, well, so you wind up with bird flu. You're not supposed to get bird flu, but you invade so deeply and excessively, there's that magic word from the last podcast, that you get bird disease. So let's focus up, please, on value priority number one, which is health, and realize it's in your words. Actually, let's start more subtly. Health begins in your feelings. Are you feeling whole? Are you feeling loving? Health densifies from your feelings to your thoughts. What are you thinking? Are you in a state of excessiveness, mind cracks, and wars? You know, and then it densifies even more into words. How are your words? What are they communicating? Are they communicating love? Even in a style which is a little Brooklyn. And then it densifies even more from words into your actions, from your feelings to your thoughts, to your words, to your actions. We create health. We sow and reap and sow and reap. If you go to the publications page on YourGodSearch.com, there's a little book. You can read it. It's called The Six Fix. It has a lot of this stuff in it. Please, let's get practical from here, from podcast number 1 all the way to podcast 8. These were all the things necessary to get rid of the nonsense and the mess of the previous era. This is a new era, okay? We begin with 9. 3 upon 3 upon 3. We begin with 9. Start sowing and reaping and sowing from the standpoint of the number one important thing in your life, my life, everyone's life. Health. Health. Very simple priority. But you're going to have to rethink a lot of things because you'll notice it doesn't get much priority on everyday basis. It's a radical simplicity. It's a tiny little priority which will reshape how you think about yourself and how you choose to live and use your supernatural ability to sow and reap. Well, take the challenge. Take the challenge. It will transform your life. And it's one of many little challenges I'm going to bring you over the next couple of weeks. This is Michael Shevack for GODSEARCH. Thanks for coming back, and thanks for checking us out on the website. And send us questions. I'm happy to answer it. As many people as I can, as much time as I have. Send me questions. I'm happy to answer it and form a relationship. This is GODSEARCH. Uncover, discover, and recover the truth that God is an experience that you can have, that's open to you, that's open to everyone you come in contact, that grows and amplifies like a geodesic dome out of triangles. God bless. See you next week.